This whole data center debacle is getting kind of out of control, y'all. And this is a very hot topic for good reason, because there are a lot of people out there that are noticing that the common narrative that we're being fed, the math ain't mathing. Stuff is simply not adding up. There's something seriously off about these data centers. There's something seriously off about what we're being told and what seems to be the reality. And that has left me looking for answers. So I have scoured the web and I've taken a lot of notes. I've got a lot of notes right here. You know it's getting serious when I bust out the notebook. But I want to share with you what I found, because not only is what I found kind of shocking, it also just doesn't add up. Because there are a lot of contradictions. And when I say contradictions, I mean contradictions in pretty much everything that we've been told over the last couple of decades to now. I mean, this is pretty baffling. And I also want to say that this is just for entertainment purposes only. Wink, wink. Because I also scoured the internet for what the people are saying. Because it's one thing to just look at the raw data and the information that's put out to the public. And it's an entirely different thing to kind of poll the people and listen to what the communities are saying. Because that's where the real story is painted. Because each individual person also does their own research, and a lot of people are involved in some of this stuff, and they're dealing with some of this stuff firsthand. So when you take all that into account, the actual picture starts to reveal itself. And the picture is pretty wild. I would consider a form of modern art, one of those deals where the painting's there and you're looking at it and it's so abstract that you can't really make sense of it. But when it's explained to you and you start to see the parallels and the connections between all the individual pieces of that artwork, the entire image begins to come into focus. So without further ado, we're just going to dive into this, and we're going to start off with several reasons on why this stuff is not really adding up. So the first reason is simply the scale of how many data centers are here specifically in the United States. This is a big one. This does not make sense, okay? Because right now in the US, there are around 5,500 data centers. And the number is kind of unknown, actually, because we're going to get into this, but there's a lot of secrecy around these data centers. Nobody's really disclosing where they're all at, how many are being built, how many are forecasted to be built. So it's kind of a best guess. And a lot of the data centers that are pinned on a lot of these maps and stuff I looked at are the community telling these people that are running these maps where these data centers are at. But by 2030, that number, 5,500, is supposed to more than double. Now, currently in the world, there are already over 12,000. But the reason this gets kind of crazy and it doesn't really make sense is because I looked at all the other countries and how many data centers these other countries have. And the amount that we have here compared to everywhere else on the planet is shocking. Okay, so the next behind us is Great Britain. They have around 500. Okay, Germany, they have around 470. China, they have around 450. And supposedly, they're right behind us in terms of AI development. So how does that really make sense? One of the countries that is one of the most developed in the world, that is right behind the United States, only has 450, yet we have over 5,500. And then the fourth place in this whole thing is France, and they have 335. So we have, I mean, more than 10x the next country behind us in terms of how many data centers we have. And another crazy thing about this is that it's not like our population is greater than, say, China, for example, because they supposedly have billions of people in their country, or over 1 billion people, I think it is. And we have, what, 324 million? Yet we have 5,500 data centers and they only have 450. So that really doesn't make sense. And when you go by the common theme and the common narrative on why they're building these data centers, obviously it's for AI. But the common narrative says that the person or the country that achieves artificial intelligence, and let's say AGI, artificial general intelligence or super intelligence, they basically win the game. They will have military supremacy over the entire world. And that is the big reason why they're scaling it up so much. And then the other common narrative that is not really mainstream, but that one talks about surveillance. They want to make a, surveillance state and a police state. Neither one of those narratives makes sense because China, they already have a surveillance state. They already have artificial intelligence, using biometrics and scanning people's faces. They have cameras all over the entire country. And they have the internet. They have technology that's just as advanced as ours, yet somehow they only have 450 data centers. So that's the big thing, okay? But it gets even crazier from there, because let's also talk about the amount of money we're pouring into it. $7 trillion over the next 4 years, $10 trillion over the next 10 years, and they're doing that by going into savings accounts, pension accounts, 401ks, retirements, and even using insurance to basically extract money from the public, and they're using that to fund all of this AI infrastructure.